Just when you think you've figured out what works best for your baby, she suddenly becomes a toddler. I'm not speaking from personal experience or anything. It's happening to me, it is, and to a mom who reached out to us by email. This is Studio 5 viewer Kristen Gritton. She's in the throes of toddlerhood, just like I am, and in need of a little help. She wrote this: I, like Brooke, also have a 1-year-old, and I would love to see a segment on Studio 5 that teaches me how to discipline him at this tricky toddler stage of life to help him in the next years to come. Signed, Kristen Gritton. So today, a mom's guide to navigating those toddler years, insight on how to discipline 1-, 2-, and 3-year-olds. Dr. Joyce Sibbett from the Dancing Moose Montessori School is here to help us out. Joyce, it's always great to see you.
Oh, pleasure.
I have to admit, I had to smile a little bit because Kristen kind of looped me into her. I'm sure Brooke is struggling with this as well, and Brooke was thinking, am I supposed to be disciplining my 1-year-old? Is that supposed to be on the parenting mindset right now? Discipline feels sort of like a harsh word.
Well, it can be a harsh word. If parents are looking at it as punishment, man, I better make sure my child complies, then it's trouble. If a parent looks at it as, this is a time for me to help my child self-regulate and learn how to meet expectations, then it's wonderful.
So it's not that we're putting a 1-year-old necessarily in a 5-minute timeout. It's just how we're shaping around their little minds and actions.
Absolutely, yeah.
You say you need to understand the goal set, meaning the child comes into the situation with one goal and mom comes into it with another goal. So let's start with the child. What are they thinking?
Well, children want to explore their environment. They want to see everything and get into everything. And moms just want to make sure, just get into the things you're supposed to.
We'd like to keep them alive.
We want to, yeah, they can get into everything hazardous, and our goal is not to have them get into something hazardous.
You have some strategies for disciplining toddlers, and you say it starts with prevention, and that's where I find myself circling a lot. It's just preventing the situation before it even arises.
Well, you think about your environment. Children love routine. Do you have a routine set up so children can kind of predict what's coming next? That's a big deal. Make sure that your child has plenty of sleep, and know that, you know, if you can just make it a nice environment and a predictable environment, you're going to save yourself from a lot of problems.
And that's great and fine and dandy most of the time. What about those days when you know you are going to push the routine, so to speak? They're not going to get that full nap or be in that regular hum of the daily living.
Well, one thing is to help your child anticipate it. So if they're not going to, if you're going out for the night and you've got a babysitter coming, or they're going to go stay with grandma and grandpa for the night, let them know beforehand so they can start seeing that, anticipating it before it comes.
They know the change, the disrupt is ahead. You like aversion or distraction to avoid or hopefully stem off those meltdowns. What does that look like?
Depends on the age, but you know that if your child loves to get into something breakable, you're not going to keep the glass things around, right? You want to keep them away. As children get older, one sibling is tearing apart the Lego set of another sibling, it's nice to just get them involved in something else.
Distract and redirect.
Distract. One of my, I've loved watching my son-in-law with my granddaughter, who's only 20 months old, and her little tiny baby sister is a month old. And the 20-month-old got hand, foot, and mouth disease.
Oh, no.
Has to stay away from the baby because it's dangerous.
Right.
And so I watched him every time, instead of saying, no, no, you can't touch it. You don't want to do that. So he just got her involved in something else, constantly removing and getting her going with something else. It was beautiful.
Before it was a problem, before she was in the baby space.
And then she didn't have to be sad that I can't touch my baby sister, because she was distracted.
Well, you touched on a word that I think is a sensitive button these days for moms. We don't like to say no all the time. And with toddlers, you find yourself, that's on the tip of your tongue quite a bit. What can we do instead of saying no?
Well, one thing is we're trying to keep the hazardous things, the things that are that can be a problem, we keep them away. But the other thing is to state expectations in a positive way. Instead of saying, stop jumping on the couch, we say, here, let's jump on the floor. This is where we can jump safely. So that's part of it. Just trying to say very simply and distinctly what your child can do. Notice when your child is doing something positive and reinforce those positives.
At the end of the day, pick your battles, moms. You say just choose when you're using those words and using kind of the scolding tone as opposed to the optimistic tone that you just described.
Right. And so if you can overlook the child, your child mismatching outfits, overlook it for now. If your child's supposed to take a nap and is playing in the bedroom first and making kind of a mess, maybe you can wait until after nap time to have your child clean up the toys. So you just kind of, some things you can let go so that you aren't always saying no.
I think of my sister when you say that, who, bless her heart, allowed my niece Charlotte to go to Walmart, I think 5 straight visits in a row in her Elsa nightgown, because that was where we were at, and it was a pick your battle moment, and so to Walmart they went in the Elsa in the Elsa nightgown. You say every toddler has triggers, and just being aware of those, even reminding yourself of those triggers, will help you kind of manage those situations.
Yeah, and one of them is, I mean, typically toddlers don't want to go out when they're tired. If they need a nap, they're going to get fussy. If they
My
need
daughter
to,
is hungry. If she is hungry, there is no moving past that. A snack won't cut it. We've got to stop and have a meal.
And so be sensitive to that. Try to meet your child's needs, know what some of those triggers are, and try to work your way around them, because we want to show sensitivity to our child's needs.
Every mom has bad days, up and down days, but you say we have to watch ourselves and not confuse our children with how we respond differently in similar situations.
Yes, well, if the ball is for outside play yesterday, and we're busy in the kitchen, and child's playing with the ball again and throwing it all over the walls, we have to take a minute to say the ball is for outside play. So we take the time to reinforce the expectation, and the younger the child is, the more we may need to remind the child exactly what those expectations are. Consistency is key.
One of the reasons I love having these conversations with you, you just shine, your expertise shines, and part of that is your demeanor, your tone of voice, just the way you approach these topics. Even when you're describing kind of a hairy, scary moment in the kitchen, it's that calm, soothing tone. You say moms need to try as best we can to channel that.
Oh, if we can just not reflect the tantrum. 2-year-olds are independent, they need to exert independence, and so when they don't get their way, we may see a tantrum in an inconvenient place. If we can respond by ignoring that tantrum for that moment, following through afterward, letting your child. I saw a couple walking down the street with a child tantruming down the street in Park City, and this child was out of control. Parents were ignoring the child, walking along, and I just thought, in fact, I had to tell him, way to go.
Good job.
This is awesome, because nobody's bugged by this child tantruming, and you're ignoring it, and your child's not winning.
And that's what you want to happen. All right, in our final moments together, nitty-gritty, timeout. At what age should we introduce the formal timeout, and what should that look like?
Well, first of all, what is timeout? It is not a punishment. When parents think, go to timeout, you naughty child, and think about how naughty, that's not timeout. The younger the child is, the more immediate the consequence needs to be. So we're removing the child from a dangerous or a difficult situation, putting them in another place. It's got to be very, very short when they're younger. With my 3-year-old grandchild, if I have to have, if that child is not paying attention and needs to go sit on the chairs, he's 3 now. He gets the idea that, okay, just go to the stair. Don't give a lot of explanation, but I don't say stay there for a certain time. Go to the stair until you're ready to come back.
You're not timing it. You're just letting them get in control, letting them calm down before
and they choose it. And maybe you have to repeat it.
Sure.
And maybe he's not going to be sad. We don't want children to internalize, I'm naughty, naughty.
Yeah.
We want him to reset. Timeout is a reset button. And once they understand, they reset, come back into the environment, that behavior usually changes immediately.
Really helpful, Joyce, as always. I noticed Dum Dum Suckers weren't on the list, but I'll throw that on from my own parenting perspective. Thank you. We really appreciate it.